Read now from South Carolina, Republican Senator Tim Scott. Senator, always good to have you. What do you make of that? What's going on here?
Thank you. It's really interesting to watch this play out. I'm very confident that we'll hold on to Mississippi, and frankly, if you win the election in Florida, you should get the votes as well, but we'll see what happens. We always want the votes to count. We just don't want them to count more than once.
So are you saying that something is afoul here, Senator, that when Democrats say, hey, we're just trying to count the votes, that something more nefarious is going on?
It seems to me that we should pay close attention to Broward and Palm Beach because of the history of Broward County, not just the 2000 history, as you just talked about, the 2016 where ballots were destroyed. But more importantly, what we want is a sense of fairness in the electoral process. And what we're looking at once again in the same place, it's just when you see smoke, sometimes there's fire, sometimes there's not. But I hope we pay close attention to it. And I understand why Rick Scott is working with his attorneys to try to make sure that clarity comes out of the midst of this smoke.
Now, I don't want to be one to link what's going on with the market, Senator, to this confusion over ballots in Arizona or Florida, what have you. But I do notice the more legal back and forth we see, it just adds to what's been happening with oil prices collapsing and fears that we could have wholesale inflation, you name it. I'm wondering, if this were to drag on for a while, are you worried that it could lead to something bad for the financial world?
Well, I think certainly we know one thing as a former small business owner, certainty and predictability is the way that you forecast your future as a business owner. When there's uncertainty, a tad bit of chaos in the political realm, it certainly does translate throughout or reverberates throughout society. What we need to appreciate, however, is that some positive things happened on Tuesday night. The fact of the matter is with 51 Republican senators, we are able to guarantee to the American people that the tax reform, it's safe. The new regulatory environment, it's set. And frankly, if you think about protecting our courts as a primary reason why I believe the intensity factor was so strong on our side of the aisle, or at least my side of the aisle, we're going to see more judges, more district court judges placed in office for our lifetime. So I'm in a good place. I think the American people, we've been able to protect the advances that we've made over the last 2 years. The question is, will we find a place of civility where we can focus on the American people's priorities, infrastructure and immigration going forward? And it certainly would be nice to have 54 seats and not 51 seats as we focus on the American people's priorities.
You know, you mentioned the tax cut is safe. I think you're referring to the tax cut that Republicans voted on in the last session of Congress, the one that's just expiring now, without a single Democratic vote. Now, Democrats, as you know, have taken over the House, indicated that they want to revisit that whole package. I can't imagine scrapping it as Nancy Pelosi has discussed.
Good luck.
But nor can I imagine the president's going to get his way with a permanent middle-class tax cut or an additional one. What's your read of things?
Yeah, there is a scintilla of hope out there as it relates to making the middle-class tax cuts on the individual side permanent. That was something we were pushing for. I'm hopeful that we'll take the vehicle of reconciliation. We still have one left, from my understanding, that we can use before the end of the year. So the lame duck session should be a robust conversation and hopefully use a legislative vehicle that allows us to make permanent the tax cuts for the middle class, as well as working on 2.0, making some corrections, working on parts of it, the BEAT part of it, the base erosion anti-tax part of it. We may be able to get some of that done during the lame duck session. If we do that, it only means more good news in 2019 for the economic recovery, which right now we're in the third longest since 1854. If we can hold it until July of next year, we'll actually be in the longest recovery in the history of the country.
You know, I don't like you knowing all this economic stuff better than me because I viciously protect my turf, Senator. But I did want to really finally end on that you alluded there. The strong economy remains strong. The market performance today notwithstanding, we've come well off our lows by about 1,000 points or so. And there's a view out there that in divided government, while it might get you worked up and Democrats worked up, they can't each get what they want. There's a room here that nothing gets worse. Do you buy that divided government will actually work and the economies benefit, the markets benefit. What do you think of that?
I do think if I go back to my maximum of predictability is a necessary component for business to flourish. They prefer good policy, but no change is also a good sign for businesses to plan a 3 to 5 year window. So I think things will get better. We've got some moving parts in government that will matter. At the AG, I think actually matters a lot. So I'm hoping my good friend Trey Gowdy will be under consideration. I also think our next iteration from a tax perspective, infrastructure perspective, immigration, all those issues have real impact on the markets. And if we can focus our attention not on Republicans or Democrats or left versus right, but on what will actually extend prosperity and how can we deepen it in some of the distressed communities around this country, we will actually return civility into the public forum, which will be a refreshing experience for a lot of people.
I lied when I said that was my last question. I did want to get your quick take on that Matthew Whitaker situation. A number of your Democratic colleagues, in particular Chuck Schumer leading them, say he should recuse himself from anything involving Bob Mueller. Separately, we hear reports that the Mueller investigation might, in fact, be wrapping up as we speak. There are a number of people, you just mentioned, Mr. Gowdy, who could be in the running for that Jeff Sessions job on a permanent basis. Is it your sense that the back and forth over who the next attorney general will be on an interim basis, permanent basis, but that the Mueller probe is safe, that the president is not trying to interfere with that, and that it would be dangerous if he did?
The quick answer is yes. I think the Mueller probe is safe, number one. Number two, we ought to focus on the fact that the Russian investigation seems to have ended a long time ago. The Mueller investigation continues because now it's no longer about whether there was a collaboration or cooperation between the Trump presidency and the campaign and the Russians. It's now about a number of other issues that have nothing to do with Russia at all. So what we should think about is the fact that, from what I've heard recently, Mr. Rosenstein seems to be perhaps a witness in the overall ongoing investigations, and the question about who should be replaced and who should be in charge, it may not be Mr. Whitaker we should be talking about. It may actually be Mr. Rosenstein.
Interesting. And for the time being, he's not going anywhere that we know of, but we'll watch closely. Senator,
he's not.
Thank you very much. And don't get so good at this economic stuff. I mean, look, it's not easy to read a prompter, all right? Always good seeing you, Senator. Yeah, exactly. Darn tootin'. All right, very good having you, Senator. Well,